Hey guys, welcome to a bit of this discussion video today. Some massive news just dropped. Genesys has been announced. There's a new format of Yu-Gi-Oh! Very exciting. This is kind of wild. Like, what do you think, Joe?
Yeah, no, it's definitely a big shakeup. I think it'll hopefully entice some players who have been complaining and maybe even leaving Yu-Gi-Oh to maybe take a second look at it, especially because of the fourth point there. We'll get more into this or whatever, but in the fourth point, it sort of talks about, or later in the Genesis thing, they talk about like there's going to be YCSs and they're actually going to support this format, unlike other formats they've had in the past where it's just been a small side event, a thing you can do alongside the main game. They're supporting this quite seriously. So if it has a big uptake, it definitely could do really, really well, I think, and rival the main game.
Yeah.
Similar to how Magic the Gathering has like multiple formats.
Yeah.
I think this is similar to how their Highlander format works actually in Magic.
Oh, Canadian. I think Glenn said it was
Yeah,
Canadian Highlander or something like that.
yeah, it's like Canadian Highlander. Essentially, cards have this sort of point value, and they're going to use that as a way to scale the power of the format.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I think it's interesting as well. So, like, if you've been living under a rock, basically the way this works is there is no link monsters or pendulums. Everything else is fair game. There's no more pendulum zones. There's no more extra monster zone. There's no forbidden or limited list. Kind of as these like points show, and then everything is rated on like a point scale, and it seems to be like the standard point cap they've been saying is 100, but depending on your event you could do more, so you might find that there could be some absolutely crazy shenanigans if you get upwards of 1,000 points, or even around that. I imagine it could be absolutely insane. I think this is really interesting. I think it's genius. I really like this concept. I think from a business standpoint, it's very smart because they're going to bring all those people who have found the game going too quickly. They're all going to come back to at least give this a try. They're going to find a massive uptick, and then people might really start enjoying this. They've said that locals can start using this, which means that if your locals had started to dwindle down, stuff like this might pump some more energy back into like the local environment. I think as well, just from like a player point of view, I absolutely love this.
yeah, no, I definitely think this is quite interesting in the terms of it's almost sort of like a deck builder's dream.
Yes, big
It's
time.
very complicated. I do have a problem with how they've laid this out. Like the structure of how this is organized is a bit of a head melt. I wish they'd organized it in terms of like the points. So they've
Yeah.
grouped cards based on their points, but third-party simulators will have other deck builders available. I think people have started to get those sorted now,
Yeah.
so they're using this list as a database, and then they'll just pull from that.
Yeah, it seems to be
But
like
no,
Konami seems to
this
have worked with a few different people because like they already have a YGO Pro website up, and a lot of the YouTubers drop videos very close to this coming out. So, and they've apparently been working on this for about 2 years, I think they said. So they put a lot of effort into this by the looks of it. I mean, yeah, I agree with you. We could definitely do with a better table, that's for sure. But like from this immediately, you can see some very interesting things. Like if you wanted to, your sole deck could be about Dweller, and like there's some crazy stuff. Like they've brought back the Millers, and like say what were a couple standouts to you, Joe?
I think what's interesting is if you sort of go through this, a lot of times what you'll find is a lot of the 100-point cards. You'll find some small 1-point cards throughout this. Like a typical one will be like Butter Dagger Elma. I think that card is 1 point.
Yeah,
So you'll find some cards are 100 points and some cards are 1 point. And a
yeah,
lot of what that is just to say these two cards can't be in the same room together. What they've done is essentially said, oh, you can put Butterfly Dagger Alma in like any decks. It sort of doesn't matter, but you just can't have it in combination with other cards. That's what the 100-point cap is meant to do. It's
yeah,
just meant to separate out some cards are fine. You just can't play them with other cards. So it's a more fine tailored ban list in a way. I do think it does solve a problem, right? So if you looked at like current sets, a lot of times what they'll do is they'll release support for an older archetype. So I think in one of the recent sets, Six Samurai got support,
yeah,
and people were like, "Where do we play this?" So you can't play it in Edison because all those cards aren't in the Edison format. All these new cards that have come in, and they're not strong enough to make the Six Samurai deck good enough so that you'd want to play it in current. So then it's a lot of people were like, why on earth does this exist? Right? This format kind of solves that because maybe it's playable in this format. I think what will end up happening is probably something similar to what happened with the development of Edison. Right? In Edison format, at the start of it, people were like, oh, this is what I think the best deck is. At the time, it started out that I think people started playing with the Shonen Jump deck that won. Then everyone was like, oh, Black Wings are broken. Then people were like, oh, Vayu Turbo is really, really good.
Yeah.
Then, like, there tends to be sort of developments in that format. So I think it'll come in waves, right? So what'll end up happening is because it's just happened, it's just been announced, as we get like different events and YCSs and we build towards the actual YCS where this is the main event, as we build towards that, we're going to have more and more fine tuning and tweaking. I could imagine that there will be some things that are discovered, things they just haven't seen,
Yeah.
combinations of cards that were never meta, but because of the current power level going down, oh, right, okay, it turns out maybe the I don't know. This is probably not true, but like hypothetically, maybe let's say Earth Machine with the reinforced card is really good because you can play all of the staples and use all your points on staple cards, and then play all these Earth Machine cards, and it turns out that that's really really good. Or people have started to talk about like I saw a couple of examples on Twitter of the Vanquish Soul deck. Maybe it turns out that some of the VS cards need to get some points added to them so that you can't play them with the K9 cards. I know, was it Paradise Smasher actually doesn't have any points, so like yeah, there could be some tweaking.
So there's a couple of cards that really massively stand out to me, right? So it's nice to see cards like Dark Hole aren't too expensive because they want to have like these fun kind of board breakers, but not go too massive on some of these board breakers. And then like Karma Cannon as well being 5 points for some of these trap decks, and then Shifter being 5 points is insane. Now there could be like reasoning for this. Maybe like lower down, I believe Kashtira is quite heavily hit, so maybe they're thinking decks like Kashtira, and then the other one is Fluon Reese is massively kind of hit as well. So they've taken away a couple of the Shifter decks, but put Shifter up quite high, and they've also put checks on stuff like the Fire King decks, just to make sure that like these are kind of the powerful ones that sometimes don't always need an extra deck. Same with the likes of
Memento's been hit as well. Memento's
yes.
been hit. They've hit Mitsurugi. What would be interesting to see, I'm actually not sure about this. You were talking about Shifter there, Callum.
Yep.
Exo Sister. Is Exo Sister on this in any way? Because if it isn't, then maybe Exo Sister exists. Yeah. Exo Sister with Shifter is probably pretty good because people played that around the time that Tier was really good. It was like one of the Shifter decks you could play.
Yeah. There's also other cool things as well, like stuff like even decks like Dracotail, right? There's like a couple of different ways you could do this, right? It's going to be quite expensive when you have to pay, like, because it's per card, right? It's 10 points per card or 20 points per card. Like, decks like this, you're not going to be able to get too much engine in, too much other than your engine. So you might have to invest in cards that are going to cost a lot cheaper. Like, we were saying there's some cards on the list, like Dark Ruler of the Moor doesn't appear to be on this, and cards like, not Lightning Storm, you discard one to blow up the field. What's that called? Is that Vortex or something?
Yeah, Lightning Vortex.
Yeah, so there's cards like that about.
It would be interesting to see. Like, I think what will come of this list is people will essentially work out what are the best cards that are zero.
Yeah.
Right? The list of cards that are zero that you can play. Crow, I think DD Crow isn't on this list, right? It's a card that's zero. As far as I'm aware, you can double check there, but I don't think DD Crow's on the list.
You're right.
It's a card that's zero. So with that being true, then you're like, oh, okay, DD Crow is probably a staple card because it gives you a way to interact with some decks that are going to do graveyard stuff without you having to pay any of your points.
Yeah.
And I think what this format has done is it said, okay, if you have a weak deck, you get powerful non-engine.
Yeah.
If you have a powerful deck, you have weak non-engine. So if you're playing, let's say the Draco Teal or some other like branded or hero, you don't get to play really broken non-engine. But if you're playing a weak deck, like maybe Earth Machine, or you're playing some other rogue strategy that's just not on this list at all, something from a number of years back, maybe Satellar's or maybe I'm not actually sure, is Infernoble or something like that on this, something that's been hampered quite a wee bit by the certain restrictions they have. they will have access to really powerful non-engine, which will essentially do a thing where it's going to balance the deck out.
Oh yeah, no Infernoble. Yeah, interesting.
No Infernoble, right? But they're also limited in the sense that they don't have access to their Link monster, they don't have access to Isolde or the Link one they have, but they do have access to Smoke Grenade of the Thief. Like you can play any card technically, so it opens deck building to you can. I actually don't know whether or not it will ever be the case where you'll want to put all of your points into one specific card and turbo it out, or is it a scenario where you look at your deck and you're like, I either pick a deck that wants to play broken non-engine in terms of like Pot of Greed, Droplets, or Max C, or other broken hand traps. Like you want to play really strong non-engine, and then you play like a really weak deck, but you then try to work out what is the strongest deck that they haven't realized is actually okay. So it might be something like Vendreads or some other like rogue deck that like people are like, oh, is that even real? Like
Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
Ryuge is like playable in this kind of a format where they get access to like a Maxi, right? There could even be like a scenario where I had thought about this where it's like maybe Insects is good because Maxi's now playable, so you can like play is Resonance Insect on this? Because if it's not, then like maybe there's a scenario where you play an Insect deck with Resonance Insect, Searching Maxi, and then that gives you access to
Nope.
that then maybe gives you access to some certain amount of non-engine. But what's really good that they've done on this list specifically is they've done not just the 101 thing, but if you look at Bahamut Shark and Totally Awesome on this, they have essentially said you can't play both of these in the same deck.
Yes, I saw that because Toad is like 20 points and then Bahamut is
81.
Yeah, and you know what the cool thing as well is they've also made it so that Ronin Toad is very expensive. So if you do want to play a Toad, like a frog based deck, like you're only gonna get one Ronin Toad and one Toadly.
Yeah, but they've also left Peleos completely untouched, so you can play like a Peleo deck with like all the broken trap cards. I don't even think rollback's on this. I think what they've done is they've said you can play rollback, but Beatrice and the Mayakashi trap, I think it is, they're both 100 points. So you can't play like Beatrice, Mayakashi, and the rollback, right? They've essentially just limited those two things. But what's really cool about that is because they've put the Mayakashi trap in there, I think if you're trying to play that with rollback, that'll be pretty slow unless you have a Beatrice.
Interesting. Yeah, that makes sense. The way I'm also looking at this is I just saw someone posted it a second ago, but a lot of the staple cards as well, they made like really easy to play. So like if you do want to play a very engine point costing deck, you're not going to be able to play cards like Droll is 7 points, Effect Better is 7 points, Bell is 5, Mourner is 7. A lot of these cards, even the Mochami is like 7 for Fuvalos. It would be really hard to play those cards, and like you could fill a whole deck with about like 20 of those like kind of hand traps, and like
if Ash is like 15 and stuff, so
yes,
it will add up.
But like you could really fill your side deck with a lot of like you could have Droll in the side deck, which could meet a lot of stuff, and you can have like a lot of other like kind of more floodgate-y kind of cards in the side. So it could be interesting to see what ways people go about it. Or we were talking a second ago, like Thrust is 13 points. You can max out on Thrust and then maybe play cards like Dark Brunner and more. Evenly match is 10 points. So there's a lot of options. I feel like when deck building, I feel like you have to approach in a way where you have to be known that there's going to be a lot of blowouts. So a lot of the time, your non-engine will win you those games, and where you put those points, I think will like that deck building will be heavily rewarded in this format. Yeah. I feel like.
No, I think that'll be really interesting in terms of like deck building. It's like, is it worth it to I don't know, maybe like because Mystic Mind's actually playable in this, like. There's so many options that are available, but I think the hardest thing to actually grapple your head around is actually this list, right? It's 505 cards. No, I definitely think it'll be a case of looking back and seeing what decks have been relevant and how badly are they hit, right? You've got cards like Hidden City there, that's points like is Guru playable. I know they've definitely hit Tempai into the ground, which I'm kind of happy about, because if this is going to be a lower powered format, you can't have Tempai running around.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Tempai is banned off the face of the planet in this, isn't it?
Junk speeders hitting this as well. Like they have really like I've watched a number of different videos about different people sort of talking about this, and I think um looking at the points and looking at every single card on the list, I think they've thought about this. I think they've
Agreed,
spent a lot
massively.
of time deciding these point values and working out what they want this format to be, like what they want decks to be capable of at this power level. Like you can play a floodgate, but you could only play one, right?
Yeah,
And once like and also your protection for that one floodgate is also so limited because a lot of the protections also like at a point value. So if you're on Mystic Mine, you can't play Solemn. You can't play it with Solemn Judgment. You can't play it with other floodgates. And I think Cosmic's at
yeah.
zero, right? There's like a bunch of removal cards.
Yes, yeah, Cosmic
So
and stuff like that. That's an interesting
yeah.
one.
So you'll be able to stick 3 copies of Cosmic in your sideboard, and um, even if your opponent has some floodgate, like you'll be able to play
Yeah,
removal for it. Um, yeah, no, I definitely think they've thought a lot about this, and especially with the pendulum and also the link restriction. I think it's actually kind of important. So like the idea is that if they want this to be a lower powered format with less text, less information for people to have to absorb, I think removing links and pendulums from it actually makes sense. If you want to lower the skill level, you have to reduce the complexity. And one of the ways to reduce the complexity is to roll it back. Essentially, you have to go back to pre pendulum and pre link, and links often will cause lots of cards to become problems. And it's kind of funny. Like people are looking for different things on this. Oh, where's the yummy cards? Where's the malice? Oh wait, links don't exist. Like
yeah, exactly.
it's quite funny. I think even when we were first talking about this, it's like you were thinking about different things.
Oh,
Like
like Runic.
yeah, Runic is a prime example because the extra monster zone doesn't exist.
Yeah,
So Runics are now just they are not an instant fusion as well as being a removal
I was
spell,
so
right?
sad. I was like, oh my god, the Runic cards are all zero. This is insane. And Naturia, like, there's only 2 Naturia cards on here, Beast and Barkion, and they're relatively cheap. I was like, I have my favourite deck back to full power, but there's no EMZ,
Yeah.
so never mind, I'm dying
It's
inside.
it's it's not playable, but you'll be able to play Naturia with other things, and that's what's beautiful about this list. It actually forces you to have to think about other less optimal ways to play because actually I think Link One's kind of broke Yu-Gi-Oh in a weird way. It's like it gave you a way to put a thing straight into the graveyard from your hand, um, which you probably shouldn't be able to do, right? Like it forces decks to have to play slower. It forces a more of a grind. It forces a less powerful end board. And what's really interesting about this is that they have reduced the ceiling on like every end board piece. So you have Barone and Savage have points. You have like lots of these cards have points. So the idea is that you're not going to have this end board piece of multiple things with a monster negate. You're just going to have a couple of different interrupts, and they're going to be outable, they're going to be removable. So I think trying to work out where the format goes in terms of control and the grindy nature that it's maybe going to get into versus how our combo deck's going to try to make their end board as powerful as it can be, insulate it through different interrupts, and see if they've definitely caught everything, because there's bound to be something they've missed. And some of the point values are probably not exactly where they need to be, but well, that's what's nice. They've given themselves a whole year to say, hey, look, we're going to run this at a whole bunch of events. If it turns out that you find out a flaw in our list, fair enough. You're probably going to get some prize card at the next YCS event we hold it at, so that all the kinks are worked out for the actual event for this, which I'm happy for.
Yeah. I agree, but yeah, I feel like we'll go in more detail into this on the podcast. We just wanted to have a wee natter about it now and talk about some of the cool things that we like the look of. But I know it certainly blew up our phones yesterday, didn't it, Joe? We were we were messaging each other non-stop about this. This is very exciting for us. So yeah, time for a lot of deck crafting, a lot of theory, and personally, I'm really refreshed We talk a lot of we talk a lot about Konami and how we dislike some of the things they're doing. However, they've just given us a really nice ban list that's rectified a lot of mistakes, and they're now doing this, and I'm really, really happy with the direction they're taking.
Like, I think one of the problems I do have with this though is it's going to be so hard to try to make sure your deck list is correct. I think they need to do some implementation on Neuron. So if you want to build this, you need to then have it on Neuron. So you build your deck list, let's say on Neuron, and it tells you how many points your deck is. And what's cool about that would be you could even go in with a current deck, like maybe you switch modes, right? Current TCG, and then you're playing Genesys Yu-Gi-Oh, and then you switch the mode, and it lets you know, oh, cool, if you want to play this deck in Genesys, maybe you have to take out a certain number of cards, and then it can give you a pool of like commonly played cards in Genesys. And it also gives you the points, right? So then maybe you want to spend 20 points to fill up your cap, right? What can you spend 20 points on that you'd maybe like to play? But yeah, I think it's really, really cool.
Yeah, and then talking about, so Yu-Gi-Oh players need to stop complaining. Hence why in our next video, we complain about product and how to save it. So come back and watch us complain more, because it is our favourite thing to do. Thank you very much, and we'll see you in the next one.